became somebody who wanted to help pull them out of the Watchtower Society, their mind control. They have a low-level mind control that the Watchtower Society does to these children. I was trying to rescue them, and then after doing that for about 10 years, I was like praying, God, why am I messing with all these little peons with their book bags going 2 by 2 on the street? Why don't you just give me the power to destroy the Watchtower Society? That's the authoritarian head that controls all of these people, If I destroy the Watchtower Society, then I'll take care of all these little people in the street with their book bags. So I was praying for that. Well, I got my prayer answered, but I didn't realize what I was praying. Because the way my prayer got answered is an insider gave me inside information that the heads of the Watchtower Society, the string pullers, who are Illuminati, would just simply get on the phone and call up the string pullers of the LDS Mormon Church, and they would collaborate. Here we have 2 churches that pretend to the world that they're God's only sole organization, and the string pullers are collaborating together and actually belong to a higher organization, the Illuminati. So then I realized if my dreams were fulfilled of destroying the Watchtower Society, I'd just be cutting off one arm of an octopus, and all of these little peons would run to the other arms of the octopus. So I went where angels fear to tread. I went to the next level. Sliced off with an arm of the octopus. Let's go for the heart of the octopus, which is the Illuminati. That's how I got into working against the Illuminati. I hadn't intended on it. But once I got involved, God started bringing it a lot into my life to allow me to happen, allow me to actually accomplish what I was to do. And then I realized this was fulfillment of what I was supposed to do many years before that I'd given up. And so realizing that this is what I was called to do and God was giving me the means to do it, I continued to do it. But I was really going, I was in over my head, and I was going where angels fear to tread. And, the story behind the story, I don't even know if I can remember all the strange things that happened. I mean, for about 10 years there, my life... Have you ever watched the movie Enemy of the State?
Yeah.
My life was an absolutely crazy merry-go-round. I had CIA-type gumshoes watching me 24/7, people trying to shoot me, people trying to run me off the road and kill me. I was watched all the time. I had people surround me that were double agents trying to destroy me. I mean, my life was nuts. Until I finally got some peace and quiet by going to prison. And I walked into that cell the first day and I'm going, thank you, Lord, I finally got some peace and quiet. I'm serious.
How long have you been out?
Since March. This is my first formal talk that I've given.
Just kind of off the subject, we once had a discussion of the Civil War. I haven't really know a lot about it. Is there a lot of symbology that deals with the Civil War that you ever discovered?
Yeah, all of these things, all of these wars involve a lot of symbology, but they also involve... Let me answer that question by going to another war. Because we're dealing with icons and symbols. I'm going to tie it in with icons and symbols. What is the thing that children draw the most? A house. Why? Because a house represents security. Okay? If you want to provoke a fight with somebody, you have to touch something that means something to them, right? Like maybe this kid here, he has no respect for his mother. He's constantly sassing her. But you tell him your mother wears army boots, you've got a fight on your hands. You see what I mean? You touch something that meant something to him. So they try to pick icons that are going to represent something that we will react to. Right? So one of the icons they used is we had a battleship. Right? And it was sitting there in Havana Harbor, and it blew up. Nobody knew who blew it up. But somebody had to have blown it up. So somebody had to be the bad guy. And since it was Cuba, why, it must be the people that were running Cuba, which are the Spanish. So that's a a good reason. We'll go to war and kick the Spanish out of all of their colonies. It was the same thing with 9/11 all over again, except this happened in 1898, which is a little bit over 100 years before 9/11, but the same thing. Nobody knew who did it, but it for sure, lickety-split got us into a war, and ships are used as an icon a lot of times to get us into war. In fact, you will find out if you study the wars, almost every war that we have been in has been related to a ship being attacked. The American Revolution, the 1802 war with the Barbary Pirates, the 1812 War of 1812, Civil War. The Civil War got started because of some ships going to Fort Sumter being fired on. So they have used ships as an icon to represent the power. It's sort of like, you know, insulting somebody's mother. Oh, you captured one of our ships, you know. What about World War I? We have, and the world had an overflow of aristocrats. So one dead aristocrat the world can handle. I mean, it's no big loss, right? We got plenty of rich nobility running around in Europe. But one guy is assassinated, and the world gets into a crazy world war where millions of people are killed. Now, if you were some alien, intelligent race, species looking at Earth, planet Earth, and you're like, they killed one excess noble, and they decided to go to war and kill millions over that, you know? But why was that noble so significant? He was an icon, because the Austro-Hungarian Empire was an empire that people questioned its future. And who was the icon of its future? The heir to the throne. He was the heir to the throne of the Habsburgs' Austro-Hungarian Empire. So by killing him, they were killing an icon. So there's a lot of icons used, and including in the Civil War, they used the ships going to resupply Fort Sumter. And a little known fact while we're on that, the Confederates, when they were laying siege to Fort Sumter, had given written instructions to the U.S. government. They said, we will not hurt the people in Fort Sumter. We will supply them with all the food and water that they need. And during that siege, the federal troops were supplied by the Confederates that had them under siege. So there was no need for federal ships to be going to Fort Sumter. They told the lie to the American public, we needed to resupply Fort Sumter. But Fort Sumter was being taken care of. All its necessities were more than being satisfied. All the South had said is, according to the Southern view, Fort Sumter is in South Carolina. South Carolina is another country. It's seceded. It's joined the Confederate States of America. We want the land returned to the Confederacy. Would you please leave? So they used the icon of a ship in that way. That's an example.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
The World Trade Center, the World Trade Center towers are icons of the wealthy. All of them
Exactly.
are which they jump up and say, hey, you know, it's awful, and there's an enemy for it.
Right. I didn't get to go into all of the symbology or the meaning behind the towers. Those towers were built by the elite, rich people of this country during the 19th century and in part in the 20th century. People like the Rockefellers, to show how rich and powerful our string pullers have become. They wanted to build these massive symbols to their power and wealth, and that's what those were. They were icons, and these two buildings were called World Trade Center specifically for a reason. It could be called other meanings, but even the name World Trade Center was to evoke certain things. The world center of trade is there. And then when you go and see that Babylon the Great and Lucifer are connected with world trade, you see that this can also be allowed by God as a symbol of judgment against Lucifer and his world empire. So there's all kinds of levels of understanding this, which is one of the things that I frequently try to convey to people, is in understanding the Civil War or so many other things, there are many different levels that we can approach understanding. And I've just scratched the surface on all this.
Were the trade towers designed and built to be brought down?
I believe that they had built within them the capability of taking them down. From what I understand, and I could be incorrect because I'm basing this on information that was given to me, that when they built them, they knew that at some time they were going to have to dismantle them, and so they constructed them so that they could be taken down at some point. Now, the Port of New York had condemned the buildings, and they were going to have to leave them vacant within a matter of months. So Silverstein, who insures them, he bought them. The reason why he bought them on pennies to the dollar is they were condemned buildings. And then he made a killing. He made billions of dollars off of the insurance because he insured them for a terrorist attack after he spent a few millions buying them because they had been condemned. So it's very convenient. When the buildings got condemned by New York City, there was no way to bring them down because it was too cost prohibitive to legally take them down, dismantle them, and build something in their place. So how convenient that we have a terrorist attack, bring them down, so that we have all kinds of agendas going on.
Why wasn't that brought up, or didn't the news media want to bring that up?
Exactly. That's my whole point. Thank you. That's my whole point behind, these are the kind of questions, if you look at the articles that I started writing the very morning, I wrote an article that was put out on the internet that morning of 9/11, where I started asking questions right then. And I continued asking questions from day one. We need answers. There are questions, important questions, and we are not getting answered. And then you get the news media coming back and saying people like us are happy that it happened, and we don't have a heart, and trying to silence us and telling people don't go to the internet. Who's covering up? Who's an accomplice to this crime? I want to ask the American people that.
See, I think this is the last question. The Pentagon and Symbolism.
Oh, yes, the Pentagon. The Pentagon was built with all kinds of Illuminati symbology to it. And so yeah. So that was one of the things that I wanted to get to is not only do we have the Twin Towers icon and symbology, but we have to marry that with Twin Towers married to the Pentagon's symbology, so we have a broader meaning here. We have a sentence instead of a couple words. You see what I mean? So yeah, the whole thing's very deep. There's a lot of occult symbolism in all of this. It was chosen to have meaning on many different levels, and so you can see that the people that planned this have put a lot of thought into it. In fact, the guy that became Homeland Security, as we were finding out last night, his job prior to this had been to make myths. He was a professional myth maker, and then from that role, he became Homeland Security.
He's in charge of commission.
So, isn't that interesting?
Do you have any information available, or how the public can access your information? Like a website or a way to find more stuff from you?
For your books.
All of my books, most of my books, have been pirated and put up on the internet for free. So somewhere you can go and find them. I have occasionally a few copies. Like I brought a copy, which is I had a copy here somewhere of one of my books. I'm going to have a blog soon, and then some of my talks like